Welcome back, everyone. This video is a bit of a doozy, so just hear me out because it might seem like a hot take, but just hear me out until the end. Now, recently there have been a number of videos discussing tunneling and how it's gotten worse and or what can be done about it. The trouble with these videos is they are often made by people responsible for popularizing or otherwise endorsing the practice, such as undesired, or just talk about it being a problem but then offering no meaningful solution. Well, that changes with this video. Today I'm going to offer an effective and meaningful solution to unreasonable tunneling in Dead by Daylight. To better understand how to solve the problem of tunneling, we first must understand why people tunnel in the early game to begin with. This is dopamine. In short, dopamine is a chemical released in the brain whenever we do something like, say, win in something competitive, and is responsible for us feeling both pleasure and motivation. Even though this chemical is produced in our own body, it is important to note that it can also be highly addicting. So, why is this important? Well, behind every win in Dead by Daylight is dopamine. This is why a growing number of players are more concerned with winning than they are with how well they play in game, because to them, all they care about is the win. But what they're really chasing is that dopamine high that comes along with winning. This is why commonly killers will tunnel one survivor out and then proceed to play fun for the rest of the match. It's to give themselves the sense of a hard-played match without ever being at a serious risk of losing, so they can get the dopamine hit. So what can be done about tunneling? Well, the answer is simpler than you might expect, and at the risk of saying something that is going to be controversial, again, just hear me out. What is the proper response to tunneling? Well, just let it happen. Give up on hook when you get there. Weirdly enough, not fighting is actually the best response. But again, hear me out, there's more to it. If you're being unreasonably tunneled, just give up on hook. Do not DC, and I'll explain why. Just give up on hook. If you see someone being unreasonably tunneled, just find the nearest hook and stand under it. You don't need everyone in the game to do it, just one or two for this to be effective, especially since usually when one or two people give up, the rest of the survivors follow suit. So why give up? Do you remember that whole thing about dopamine earlier? Well, this is where it all ties in. Dopamine is the reward chemical for winning, and since killers tunnel just to win, we're going to give them that, but at the price of making winning so boring, that's all they get is just the win and no dopamine hit. Ah yes, and there's the brilliance of it all. We're going to train killers not to tunnel, because in time, not only will winning by tunneling become boring, but the very thought of tunneling will sour a win. It's basic psychology. Essentially, we're going to have ourselves a Pavlov's killer. And now, also, it wouldn't take too many games to create this association of tunneling and boredom. The thing is, killers who play cheap think they are after a win, but in reality, they're just chasing that dopamine hit. By giving up, you're giving them the win while depriving them of or dampening the effect of the dopamine hit they are really after. The effects of giving up against unreasonable tunnelers doesn't just stop there. With a sudden jump in MMR, killer players will be punished by being made to play against better and better survivors to the point that even tunneling may not produce the easy wins they hope to achieve. Killer players who unreasonably tunnel will be in a position where they either have to get used to losing or otherwise struggle in sweaty match after sweaty match. So not only does this make winning not fun, but incredibly stressful. Likely far more stressful than the win is even worth. Again, remember, this is all about training killers to not engage in specific behaviors, and this is one way in which you can do that. But wait, there's more. If these players are also content creators, their audiences will eventually turn on them when they try to claim a win streak or other accomplishment by pointing out that they only achieved such because no one wanted to play with them. This happened actually to Otts during his no perk, no add-on 30-second AFK experiment. As the experiment went on, more and more people started calling him out for his playstyle, and for pressuring survivors into disconnecting. True Talent actually lost viewers and even subscribers when he started to embrace camping, tunneling, and slugging. I myself am among one of those viewers. Giving up on hook or under a hook not only has the power to make a win boring, but if a content creator's matches are also boring, people will just stop watching or simply turn on them altogether when said content creator goes to brag. Finally, when behavior sees kill rate spiking, and I'm sure you know where this is going, this will result in some heavy nerfs for killers and killer perks. That or the devs will step in and nerf killers who excel at tunneling, like Wesker, or perks that encourage tunneling, like Make Your Choice, while buffing survivors or survivor perks to further disincentivize tunneling. This is why you do not disconnect. The devs do not include any games with disconnects in their statistics when determining if killers or perks need to be nerfed. So, there it is. This is the true power of taking your ball and finding a different match. 4 different ways that killer players will be punished over time by one simple action, and believe it or not, it won't take much time for the effects to show. The reason you won't hear many people discussing this, well, if tunneling is a tactic, then so is this. The reason why you won't hear many people discussing this tactic is because of how incredibly manipulative it is. And if used irresponsibly, it can actually have the opposite effect. There is such a thing as overconditioning. Because of this, I want to be very clear that unreasonable tunneling is tunneling as a strategy done at the beginning of a match. Survivors need to be mindful of when being hooked is a result of either bad luck or themselves running into the killer, or if they're playing like a douche and just getting their just deserves, which I've had plenty of times myself. You just gotta have to accept at that point. Be humble, be reasonable, you know? In the end, that's really all there is to it. If you want killers to stop tunneling for easy wins, make winning boring for killers. They will either seek out different ways to get that dopamine rush, such as playing fair and fulfilling matches, or they will move on to other games where they can just get that easy dopamine. It really is just that simple. So with that, I want to thank everyone so much for watching. I appreciate any of you who made it to the end. I understand that this concept might sound controversial, but it really isn't. It's the same thing when it's dealing with trolling. If you want trolling to stop, you just don't feed the trolls. Then they won't get that dopamine hit when you don't respond, and they're not going to be trolling you. They're going to move on to whoever else they can get that hit from. Same thing with bullying. This is why parents tell their kids not to engage with bullies, because it gives the bully that dopamine hit, and the bully is going to continue in this negative behavior because they're being rewarded by it. But I'm done prattling. Like I said, it's a very simple. It's a simple concept. We see it in real life in various areas, so it's not just something that is dramatic or controversial or something that should be considered new or unique to Dead by Daylight. It will be effective. It's just a matter of use. Anyways, I know I'm prattling on long again, and I do appreciate everyone who watched the video, who made it this far. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. As always, I'm always open to having discussion down in the comments below. So, yeah, otherwise that's going to do it for me, and I'm going to see all of you guys in the next video. Bye.